This is going to be the first video in hopefully a long series I'll be making, tracking the online narratives surrounding Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. When The Last of Us 2 was nearing release, there was an increasing number of smear campaigns launched against it ahead of time. I was there when it was going down, but I wasn't a YouTuber at the moment. And so all of the things going down at that time kind of just got memory hold, and the well surrounding that game was effectively poisoned in a very small but vocal minority of the gaming community. This is all a long-running tale of the Gamergate phenomenon from the early 2010s. Since then, this method of thinking has grown into its own self-feeding content farm. The goal with this video and the subsequent videos are to track deeply and understand the way in which online narratives are crafted. Since I'm part of the online gaming space and the terminally online political space, this is the vector by which I'll be doing it through. It'll also be a look into the minds of people who truly believe that entertainment must represent them, and that when it doesn't, it is an offense. It's also just going to be another attempt to document this moment in our online cultural history, so that things don't get memory hold like they did with The Last of Us 2. Hey guys, I am meteormischief. I'm a liberal content creator who would like to bring more liberal voices to the online political space that are not super ultra leftist or ultra culture war-y on the right wing. I'm not a fan of identity politics, whether they are coming from right-wingers or from leftists. And I believe that Gamergate is a right-wing identity politics content farm. So let's get started with this. The formula kind of works like this. Step 1, you have some supersonic autists who use a fire hose of falsehood to spread narratives that will justify the incoming hatred that the IP or franchise is about to receive. But they need the content gooners, who are the actual content creators, which will scour Twitter and online forums for any hint of something that might stick or might be profitable on YouTube or whatever platform that they make their content on. Then you have the shotguns. These are the people who will fire off tweets or posts in online forums, comments, upvotes, etc., that will be in alignment and agreement with whatever the current vibe surrounding a game is, or the current vibe surrounding a narrative surrounding the game is. Lastly, you have the suckers. These are the people who, I call them casual gamers. I don't mean that in like they play mobile games or whatever you think. I mean that in the sense that they might not actually even play the game that they are spending a lot of their time speaking about online, but rather they get their opinions of a game from other content creators and by proximity to other people online. This is a natural human behavior. Most people get their opinions from those in close proximity to oneself. Now, the win condition I called poisonous well, because the goal of all this is to poison the well surrounding a particular thing so that there's a sort of snowball effect under which future repetitions of this formula will have greater chances of success, because the step 4s, the suckers, the general audiences, have already been primed by their peripheral understanding of the narratives surrounding a particular thing. Now, we're going to see each of this type of person as we move through the events that surrounded Intergalactic's announcement in its first 3 days. But before that, I want to show you guys a proposed counter that I made for this type of engagement with online politics. So I have this little guide here for us onlookers watching all of this go down in real time. Since the internet moves so fast, I think it's better to just track these things in real time as opposed to trying to go back in time and slog through it all, as things evolve and change rapidly. It's based off a little thing that Vlad Vexler proposed as a potential method for dealing with what he calls fire hoses of falsehood. You allow them to develop their narrative and compile what is and isn't based off of evidence as it is created. Fire hoses of falsehood will oftentimes benefit in the short term from you attempting to debunk or address every single one of their claims as it happens, because by the time you've debunked or addressed or commented on the first one, they're already on to the 10th. So, at times, it is better to simply compile what is occurring, document it as it evolves, as we will see going forward in, like I said, just the first 3 days of this game's announcement. An evolving narrative surrounding the game. Note any strong claims that are made. And if you have the willpower to do so, make an evidence-based critique of them once you have fully digested their claims. And also, as I'm doing, this is the purpose of these videos here, is to just track it. Make sure things don't get memory hold. And the win condition you're looking for here is something I called lifesteal, or rather replay. While you don't benefit from this immediately, when things are all said and done, if you did things well, you should have an encyclopedia of events surrounding this particular thing that you're watching or studying, and you should be more prepared at that time to challenge the proponents of it. Like I said here, my goal with these videos is to challenge the identity politics of the anti-woke crowd, which I believe to be just another extension of this rage-based content economy that we find ourselves in. So without further ado, let us get into the events surrounding Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. On December 12th, 2024, Naughty Dog released an announcement trailer for the game alongside the Game Awards ceremony. The trailer was composed of in-game cinematics featuring a female character named Jordan as the main protagonist. We don't learn much from the trailer, but we do get a good look at the protagonist. She's motioned off of a half-black, half-Asian actress named Tati Gabrielle. But while Tati Gabrielle expressed excitement to work with Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog on this new game, a certain segment of the gaming fandom would be less pleased with the choice of model for the protagonist of this game. Overall, the sentiment on the day and the day after the trailer's release was one of slight offense on behalf of this segment of the gaming community. And from my perspective, it appears as though some have felt that the gaming community has quote-unquote lost another franchise to the woke mind virus. When prompted about their distaste, many would cite that it wasn't that they disliked female characters. It was that the gaming industry seemed to have a hatred or a distaste for attractive female characters, or that the aura of the female characters in many of the games being released indicated that the character or the developers themselves would look down on everyday, standard male gamers. However, many of the words coming from figures of this line of thinking in the gaming community were as one would expect from a content engagement farm. I refer to these people as the preachers. They interpret events and convert them into sentiments that will then be grabbed by their followers. Some are more serious than others. Some make a living off of it, while others benefit in passing from the clout or euphoria of shared beliefs. Others only believe it in passing as an idea that they picked up tangentially from those in their proximity. And I should note that throughout this game's release and some other games being released around the same time, there will continuously be a running theme of the soy West versus the Chad East in terms of various nations' handling of concepts like feminism, sexualization, and the sexual targeting of men in products. We have here a tweet from Asmongold, released December 13th, the day after the trailer was released. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like the market for masculine, non-conventionally attractive female leads in games isn't as big as the gaming industry thinks it is. Tectone states, girls in the West versus East in video games, using Intergalactic on the left and a game called Stellar Blade on the right as examples. Stellar Blade was a game that had been touted by many of the Gamergate types as a symbol of Eastern superiority in the sexual targeting of products in gaming to men, as well as an implicit resistance to Western feminist ideals, which they believe to be tainting the occurrence of sexual targeting in AAA gaming in the West. Again, we see here the comparison between West and East. We also have a clip here from a YouTuber who makes videos on these sorts of things, where he also compares the Western world to the Eastern world through the use of video games and sexual targeting.
And you could see the crazy mental ill haircut on the right, which is the Naughty Dog Intergalactic character from the game. And then what you could just make it look like to make it look pretty and make it that simple if you actually just wanted to have a nice protagonist there. And it is really a Western versus Eastern thing. It really is.
So here we have Tyrone Magnus giving what I believe to be an audience-captured reaction to the trailer. But we see some of the similar themes here, as we will see going forward, with another mention of an Eastern ideology here.
She's one of the women that did 4B because Trump won.
I don't know. We have a Twitter user here who is a spokesperson of this sort of section of the internet. And I'm not going to read all this yapping, but like I said, step 1, setting the narratives. Step 2, step 3, content creators picking up narratives. People on Twitter firing off tweets to see what sticks. And we see the connection of all of these things coming together, even in just the first day and the first day after its release. And this is just a tweet that connects all of the things that we're going to be talking about, and which I've already talked about here, which is the connection between the political spectrum, using video games as a vector for that political spectrum, the fire hose of narratives then being picked up by content creators, as well as people on Twitter firing off tweets in agreement with the general vibe and with the general narratives, which will then later be picked up by step 4s, the suckers. Here again, we have some dude on Twitter saying, this is Asians created by Asians on the left and Asians created by Californians on the right. Again, the East versus West comparison, rearing its head continuously throughout the days following this announcement trailer's release. This is not by mistake. It is deliberate as a means of using gaming as a vector by which to connect non-gaming political sentiments and anti-Western political ideologies. We have here a clip of sort of the well poisoning and someone who took the bait in action with XQC. I like XQC, but this just goes to show how pervasive some of these anti-Western narratives can be when they are dressed up in your favorite hobbies.
Let's go again. I got one more.
How you change your skin?
Click on the character.
I want to be the big titties.
Oh.
There's none in this game because we stopped doing that a long time ago in games. Big titties are like
another deck that has like effects or some shit in it.
Nah, you right.
The Fall of the West.
Nice shit. They only do it in Street Fighter now.
Yeah.
These are just a few of the instances that occurred in the days on or immediately following the initial trailer's release. The trailer was less than 5 minutes long, with not much indication as to anything that was going on, or the political beliefs of the developers or game at large. There were many more reactions like this, and we see a multi-layered cord of interwoven concepts: entertainment, escapism, demographical targeting, identity politics, global politics, sexual frustration, and the implicit insistence that intentional political motives are responsible for the two genders being positioned as being conflicting in entertainment, as well as the negative emotions that one feels when observing a piece of entertainment that they feel does not represent them in its protagonist. Here is my attempt at understanding the minds of these people and the sentiment at hand. It can be summed up as a single sentiment, I believe. Men don't get to have fun because a subversive entity said so. Women are invading masculine escapism, and the industry is no longer targeting men sexually. As a matter of fact, it believes that the targeting of men sexually is immoral, which is a slight against male desirability, their interests, and it displays an increase in the male sexual invisibility and proof that men are being pushed out of hobbies which they once dominated. Now, I don't agree with these sentiments, but that is my attempt at trying to understand what might be the lower level belief that is motivating a lot of these higher level statements and claims being made from such a non-controversial announcement trailer. This subversive entity can then be grasped and interpreted by various sections of the internet however they please. For some, it would be the feminists. For others, the Jews. One might say capitalism. And still yet for others, an unseen but ever-present force that works against what is natural, good, and right. And I might assume as this story develops, that few who are currently professing these claims would be willing to consider that the narrative choices, including the makeup of the protagonist, were just simply that. Narrative choices made by a writer, not designed to bring offense to any particular group, no more than a random book protagonist you pick up at a Barnes & Noble would be. Or that there are people who do not consider these things at all, and enjoy making a franchise or characters or stories as it comes to them, without much political baggage. These sentiments will likely continue up until and after the release of Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, let's take a look at the timing of the release of this trailer within the online political landscape. All of this was occurring at the same time that Black Myth Wukong, another Eastern game that had been touted as being an anti-woke property, had lost Game of the Year to a non-sexual, visibly Western game called Astrobot. The Witcher 4 had also been announced as a follow-up to The Witcher 3, a game that went on to be lovingly memed into oblivion as a true gamer's game. They had announced that its next protagonist would be Ciri, a female. Grand Theft Auto 6 had also announced that one of its two protagonists would be a female as well. Likewise, Ghost of Tsushima's sequel would also feature a female protagonist, as opposed to its predecessor's male protagonist. And the television and film space had been seeing a resurgence of female protagonists and widespread success in shows like Arcane, which featured a mostly female-led cast with a female-gazy slant to its portrayal of both men, women, and storytelling. The quality of any of these franchises are out of scope for this discussion. I, for one, like all of the games I spoke about, except for Black Myth Wukong, which I have not played yet, so I can't give an opinion on, and of course the games which have yet to be released. But the message was clear. Companies have decided that female appeal is profitable and that they are going to continue to pursue it. There was one problem though. Men and women are not always appealed by the same things, especially sexually. Therefore, sexual appeal while being such an inconsequential part of what makes a good game or a good story, has become a line in the sand. It becomes a clear marker for whose side you're on, regardless of if you intended it to be or not. It has come to represent much politically to certain people, and is a higher level belief that represents many lower level ones. On December 13th, 2024, Kim Hyung-tae, the CEO of Shift Up, the studio behind Stellar Blade, expressed some brotherly love to Neil Druckmann about the announcement of Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. He said, "Thank you for warmly welcoming me, Neil Druckmann. Intergalactic was absolutely fantastic." This was a problem though. The vocal segment of the gaming community that engages in culture war had painted Stellar Blade as a bastion of Eastern game-making supremacy over Western. If you look at the comments on the Stellar Blade trailer, you will see statements like, "Never apologize for wanting attractive female characters in your game." Another person says, "Sony, remember your old slogan, this is for the players." A clear implication that Sony had lost its way and was no longer targeting the players. Finally, a video game without any mental agendas, microtransactions, or battle passes. Just pure fun and creativity, the way games were meant to be. How could Sony censor an M-rated game like this? This is deeply disturbing and proof that activists do really have control over our video games. Please bring back the original game and what developers promised to the customers. So some people were really not happy about Kim Hyung-tae's support for Neil Druckmann and Intergalactic. Please don't listen to anything Neil Druckmann has to say about female characters. The guy hates everything Stellar Blade is about, especially characters like Eve. His whole career is dedicated to destroying characters like Eve in games like Stellar Blade. We don't want that Shift Up have any relation with the Western woke video game company's garbage. We can destroy Shift Up, don't betray us. We want more DLC in Stellar Blade 2, and more video games with fan service, no woke garbage. Great. Now Cuckman is trying to infest one of the last good devs out there. This is what filth does. Infect others with their degenerate ideas. Stay away from that a-hole. He despises everything you are. These reactions are clearly overblown, with a bunch of explicit and implicit claims being made about the motivations of Neil Druckmann, and a lot of references to things such as infestation, corruption, wokeness, and a claim that Neil Druckmann hates Stellar Blade and what Stellar Blade represents and what the character Eve in Stellar Blade represents. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned higher order beliefs being representative of a collection of lower order beliefs. By higher order, I mean abstracted, and by lower order, I mean less abstracted and closer to the raw feeling that a person is truly having. Here we can see that there is a sort of association between the East, anti-feminism, and the sexual targeting of men, and Neil Druckmann and the West and feminism and the anti-sexual targeting of men, or perceived anti-targeting of men thereof. Neil has become a symbol of the woke mind virus, and Eastern game making has become a symbol of based and true-pilled traditional values, or at least traditional values as these individuals perceive it. As a side note, I found this random guy who started making things up in an argument while defending Neil and then just blatantly admitting that he made it up. Wait, has Neil ever talked about not liking Eve? I assume Neil has said some positive things about the game enough. I don't know, as far as I know, Stellar Blade was his game of the year. This clown's just decided that he hates her because he made female characters that committed the cardinal sin of not giving them boners. Interesting. Where did you find this information? What information? That Stellar Blade was Neil's game of the year. There had to have been something that led to you saying that. I don't know. I said it to prove a point. Holy based Omer. Jeez. Now, here we will see a circle back to the first step of my proposed formula, which was the fire hose of falsehood. On December 16th, just 3 days after the announcement trailer was released, the first rumors of trouble in paradise had been laid. A post on 4chan stated, "Plot and gameplay details revealed below was sent to a handful of gaming journalists, the most notable of whom includes Jason Schreier, but they are debating whether to share it or not. The leaker is supposedly a disgruntled Naughty Dog staff member who hates the direction that the company is going as Druckmann gets more and more powerful and influential. Part of the reason why Schreier is hesitant to give the okay. My friend in an exclusive gaming journalist Discord server sent me this summary of the leak." Now, I don't know if the leaks are true or not, and neither do any of you. So the important part of this is not the content of the leaks, as I don't have any information to assert if they are true or false, but rather the framing that surrounds the release of these leaks as having come from a leaker who is supposedly a disgruntled Naughty Dog staff member who hates the direction the company is going, in reference to Neil Druckmann himself. Now, I don't know if this was true or false either. However, Jason Schreier would then go on to debunk the claim on 4chan that he was sent a full leak of the Intergalactic plotline. Hello, is this true? Plot and gameplay details revealed below was sent to a handful of gaming journalists, the most notable of which includes Jason Schreier. And Jason responds, no. In another post, a BLUESKY user says, already has 10k likes on Twitter. Insane how fast this BS spreads. And Jason responds, one of many reasons I'm no longer on Twitter. So someone here has to be lying. Either Jason Schreier was lying when he said that he was not privy to any leaks of the sort, or the 4chan user was lying when they said an exclusive gaming journalist Discord server had the official leaks and the official reasoning for the leaks. If you remember, prior to The Last of Us 2's release, there was also a wave of reported Trouble in Paradise leaks that spread close to its release date. It's my opinion that they saw how successful that was last time and wanted to start early this time. It's my intuition that these rumors are an attempt at step 5, poison the well. Well poisoning is a useful tactic at bombarding your informationally casual individuals with ready-made sentiments that will go on to affect the way that that individual perceives and interprets future events. Time will tell if the leaks were correct. However, I urge people to be aware of the various incentives and motives in our world that might cause someone to post something like that, or might fuel this online rage bait economy that we are all currently living in. This was a video on just 3 days of drama surrounding Naughty Dog's latest game. I repeat, this game was announced just 3 days ago. Stay tuned for more updates in this saga. I missed the boat when all of this was going down with The Last of Us 2, and it honestly feels like too much of a slog to go back and compile now. As you can see, things move very, very quickly and oftentimes get memory hold. So even if I was to make a documentary on the drama surrounding Last of Us 2, I would probably miss out on a lot of the little things that went on along the way. I hope to simply be able to document this moment in our internet culture for the future, while at the same time providing what I hope to be a liberal, level-headed approach to online gaming politics. Before I head out here, I would like to shout out a YouTuber named BLUESKY. I had listened to this video in the background while I was working on the script for this video, and I thought, why not just shout out another content creator who I think has a logical mind and thinks deeply about video games and politics in gaming.
There were a substantial number of people who found out in 2020 that Ellie was gay and decided in that moment this was a contemporary issue in the industry. Research didn't matter, nuance didn't matter, just enough ignorance to light a match. In The Last of Us Part 2, there were no instances where sexuality, race, or gender identity were used as inauthentic teaching moments. They existed as normal, like they do in normal life. These topics are not even directly addressed in the script, outside of under 30 seconds of total dialogue in a 30-hour-long game inferring Lev is trans.
So yeah, if you liked what you heard, go over to the video and give it a watch. So yeah, that's it for the first episode in this saga documenting the online drama surrounding Intergalactic. I'll see you guys in the next video.